Hi, I'm Craig the geologist, and I'm at Thomsonite Hill here in the Keweenaw Peninsula of Michigan. What are we looking for? Well, we're looking for what we call Michigan Thomsonite. It's not true Thomsonite, but it's close enough for us. Come join me. Now our collecting spot is just a short walk from the road, but I'm not going to tell you exactly where it is. And this is a case where I just don't want a lot of people coming out here. It is a small location, but I will tell you a little bit about the area and where you can try looking for spots to collect yourself. Have you found a piece there already, Todd?
A little piece.
You sure have. So this is perfect time to talk about Michigan Thomsonite. Michigan Thomsonite is not true Thomsonite. However, there's a lot of controversy about that. The actual mineral is mesolites with a bit of natural light and other stuff mixed in with it. When mineralogists at Michigan Tech analyzed the samples and realized that they weren't Thomsonite, it created a major conflict with the local mineral dealers. Folks who had rock shops did not want this to not be Thomsonite. They wanted it to remain Thomsonite. And Michigan Tech needs to have a good relationship with local landowners and locals in general. And so they kind of buried those results. Sad on them. We can tell though, just looking at them visually and comparing to Thomsonite, true Thomsonite, that they really don't look the same. While they're superficially similar, Thomsonite, the real deal, has a bird's eye look. It's got a circle of dark material in the center and bands that radiate outwards. These Michigan Thomsonites usually start radiating crystals from their edge. They form in the amygdals of the lava rocks. Here's a piece. So if Thomsonite has a bird's eye look to it, this really does not. It starts at a point on one of the edges of the amygdala and the crystals radiate outwards. This is a place where I scavenge my crystals. Somebody else has hammered or perhaps even blasted back here. And I'm happy to just go through the scraps. Have a look at that. Well, let's talk a little about where you can find these Thomsonites that aren't really Thomsonites for yourself. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not going to give you the directions to this exact spot for two reasons. Number one, the location is very small and can't handle traffic of any kind. Number two, I was told about this spot by a friend who kind of reminded me where this was. I'd been there back in college, but hadn't been there for decades. But he only told me based on a promise I made that I wouldn't reveal the location to others. Some people are justifiably worried that I might not be trustworthy to share their secret spots with because I am a YouTube educator, but I do take promises like that very seriously. What I will tell you though is that Thomsonites can be found occasionally at tailings piles all across the Keweenaw and even on the shoreline. For the best collecting though, you're going to want to get close to Thomsonite Hill. Thomsonite Hill is actually a very long ridge that runs roughly from the Jacobs Falls area out to probably as far as Copper Harbor. And it follows the Eagle Harbor Cutoff Road. If you can find a place to collect some rocks, whether on the side of the road or at a tailings pile, anywhere between the Monk's Trail and Eagle Harbor itself, you've got a decent chance of finding some good mesolites. There are also trails that extend further east along that ridge. I have not hiked those trails, but I've heard that you can find some good stuff along those trails as well. Maybe this summer I'll go out there and check it out for you. Someone's been working up here extensively. That's beautiful. It's just in too big of a piece. And the trouble is when you hammer on them, they tend to shatter. Here's a nice little nodule sticking out there. I wonder if I can remove that. I just pull at that a little bit. Maybe I need to give it some gentle taps with a rock hammer. I know gentle taps with a rock hammer sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, but we'll give it a shot here. We'll hit it right here. Got it. All right. That's better. And it pops right out. And we have an intact nodule of mesolite. Ooh, we got some down here. What do we got here? That's pretty. Sunlight would stay in one place. It's tough on a windy day with all the trees above us. Like this guy. He's kind of big, but walk over here to the sustained sunlight, get out of those leafy areas. Now you'll note the way the crystals in this mesolite start from a central point at the bottom edge of the amygdala and radiate outwards. This seems like a good time to really dive into the visual differences between real Thomsonite and this fake Michigan Thomsonite. Now, to illustrate those differences, I'm going to show you some of the Thomsonite, or rather fake Michigan Thomsonite pieces I found from Thomsonite Hill previously and other trips to the area. And I'm going to put those side by side with still photos of true Thomsonite from Minnesota that were sent to me by a friend, since I don't have any samples of true Thomsonite myself. What I hope you're noticing here is that in every single one of these amygdals with this mesolite fake Thomsonite, the crystals are radiating out, spraying out from a single point along the edge of the amygdala. You can see it's not radiating from the center, it's radiating from the edge. Compare what you're seeing here to, say, this guy. This is real Thomsonite on the left. And when you hold them side by side, they actually don't look very similar. Now granted, the piece on the left is polished and the piece on the right is not, but you can see bullseye pattern, bird's eye, whatever you want to call it, for true Thomsonite, and a spray radiating from the edge on the Michigan Thomsonite. Now this piece has a bit of a glassy look to it. You don't see those radiating fibers as well. You can see as you squint at it, it does spray out and you get a little bit of that radiating banding pattern that you get in Thomsonites, or our fake Thomsonites, but it has a glassier look. And this is where we can start to discuss the real controversy with the naming. The folks who like to go around correcting people and saying, well, Michigan Thomsonite isn't true Thomsonite, they then correct you and say it's actually pink prehnite. But is it? Prehnite is amygdala filling. It is glassy. It is botryoidal, radiating out from a central point. So it has those things in common with the Michigan fake Thomsonite. However, it tends to be green, not pink. But it can appear pink due to trace amounts of copper trapped within the mineral. In fact, the folks who like to go around correcting everybody and telling them that this is pink prehnite, they're not totally baseless, because that's based on a study conducted by the USGS in the early 1970s. In that study, they collected several samples of supposed Thomsonite from Isle Royale, and they analyzed it, and their analysis revealed it to be prehnite, but it was pink prehnite, pink because of trace copper in it. However, that was just a couple of samples from one location in Isle Royale. Isle Royale is nowhere near Thomsonite Hill. A lot of geologists and experts took umbrage with that study because these pieces really do not look like pink prehnite to us. And so I was actually tremendously reassured when the legendary geologist Sean Carlson told me that they had actually done a study on these minerals at the Seaman Mineral Museum. And that analysis had shown that it wasn't pink prehnite and it wasn't Thomsonite, it was mesolite. Now, that's a little bit confusing also because mesolite is usually a white mineral. So why is this stuff pink? Well, I haven't looked at the analysis myself, but I'm betting it's the same reason that the prehnite out in Isle Royale is pink. It's due to copper in the mineral structure. Thomsonite and mesolite have a lot in common, and you can forgive folks for getting them confused. They're both zeolite minerals. They both have similar color patterns. They're found in similar rocks, just in opposite regions. The Thomsonites come from these exact same rock units, but where they outcrop in Minnesota, whereas these fake Thomsonites come from the rock units outcropping in the Keweenaw Peninsula of Michigan. They have similar crystal structure. They have almost the exact same hardness. And they look very similar to each other, but if you take a look at them side by side, again, these mesolites radiate from points along the edges of the amygdala. The Thomsonites, true Thomsonites, have a bullseye pattern with circles radiating out from the center. Now, I've talked about how the Michigan mesolites, aka Thomsonites, radiate from a single point along the amygdala wall, but that's not necessarily always the case. You can have multiple points beginning seed formation on these minerals, and the minerals merging together inside the amygdala. So here you can see several points that the minerals are radiating out from. Here you can see a little bit of that going on, but right here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 points that the mesolites are radiating out from the edges and growing into the middle. Now, I don't know if in the middle it was left empty by an unfinished mineralization process, or if there's a softer material like chlorite in there that weathered out. But here you can see exactly how the mesolites grow into each other, filling out the outer edges of the amygdala and growing inward toward the center. Here's a very boldly colored piece, also a bit glassier than some of the others, but still with a very well-defined fibrous radiating texture. You might notice the outer rind of the amygdala is green. That is mostly chlorite. That's something you get around a lot of these beautiful minerals that form in amygdalas. Greenstones often have a chlorite rind. Prehnites sometimes do. And Thomsonites, well, fake Thomsonites, the mesolites, also have these chlorite rinds on them very frequently. But you can see that we don't have two distinct types of mesolite. We don't have glassy, non-fibrous, and fibrous, non-glassy ones. What we have is a whole range, a broad spectrum of mesolite in terms of color, texture, and general appearance. And in terms of color, we've already seen some red, purple, and pinks. How about some green? There's actually stories of some very colorful mesolites along Thomsonite Hill that I haven't found yet and I'm still looking for. But you can find quite a bit of interesting stuff out here. Now, while we're on the subject of Thomsonites and a little bit about prehnite, let's just ditch Thomsonite Hill entirely and have a look at what you can find on the Keweenaw shores in terms of these minerals. This is wave polished prehnite in basalt. You can find stuff looking like this on some of the shorelines up around 5 Mile Point and areas like that. They're gorgeous. Some of the darker greens might be chlorite rather than prehnite. It's really a mixture of minerals in this. This is what a piece of really pure prehnite looks like when you find it on the shore. It actually looks quite a bit like beach glass, but it's green and it's not glass, it's mineral. Really pretty beautiful stuff. But personally, it's lost most of its really best features, its botryoidal crystal habit, things like that, due to the wave tumbling. So I would never find a beautiful crystalline piece of prehnite and run it through a tumbler. Now, just like every beautiful mineral inland, those mesolites end up on our shorelines. And this is what they look like when you find them. They're going to be polished. They're going to be rich pinks and purples with a bit of green mixed in. Some people will call these patricianite. Some people will call them pink prehnites, but we know that they are mesolites. Here you see one. It's mostly green, but is that spraying outward from a central point? It sure is. It has that radiating structure that we look for in those mesolites. Here's another nice, very light color, light pink. You can probably guess at this being mesolite based on color alone at first. And then as you really squint at it, you'll notice that the crystals are radiating from a central point and spraying outward, almost like a Chinese fan. Here we're seeing that rich purple and a little bit of color banding in there. This is definitely another mesolite. Here's another soft pink one. Definitely another mesolite, aka Michigan Thomsonite. Here's another similar one. I like the grayish, greenish grading into the pink there. It used to be one of my favorite Michigan Thomsonite or mesolites until I pulled a tick off my dog that looked almost the same, and that kind of ruined this mineral for me, unfortunately. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Here's one where you can really feel fortunate to see those radiating crystals coming off from that central point at the top of this piece. The back of this piece, also quite nice. Some nice color variation on there. This is one I collected as a university student at Michigan Tech, and it was one of my favorites. And I didn't know what it was until only just recently. I was looking at that and studying the structure on that. I realized, oh, well, that's a mesolite as well. You can definitely see those radiating fibrous crystal structures inside, and that color grading from white to pink to green, just perfect. Now this guy isn't nearly as beautiful, but I think it's just as fun. It's a little piece of basalt with teeny tiny migdules, and these are all filled with mesolite, the fake Michigan Thomsonite. Every single one of these. It kind of looks a little bit disease riddled, like it's got some sort of an old-fashioned pox virus, but it's just a really interesting lumpy piece. Now here's one that might make you think agate looking at that. You see all that banding on there. You're like, hey, I found myself an agate. Now you start to see that pink in there. And wait a second, are those radiating fibrous crystals that's been polished up coming out from a single point at what is now the top of this piece, the way I'm holding it? Yes, it is. It's not agate. What we're seeing here is Michigan Thomsonite, aka pink mesolite. How gorgeous is that, though? Better than an agate, in my opinion. What we got down here? Pretty. A little nodule here. Maybe. If I can knock that off. A little gentle hit. Maybe not that gentle. Was it an intact nodule? Not sure what that was. That may have been more quartz. Whoa. hello, the size of this thing. Maybe it was too weathered out for whoever was looking for it, but that is the biggest one I've ever found by a long shot. Holy monkey. All right, we got a question about what the purple stuff in here is. Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I don't know that mineral. You do in some places find like bornite and some other minerals like that. I'm not sure. The truthful answer is, I don't know.
And there's a white vein with some color in it running around over here.
Oh.
Leverite.
Yeah, it could be a leverite. Oh yeah, that's interesting. You think it's gonna be productive? These I don't think that's.
I don't think this is worth anything.
No, I don't.
White stuff is not what we're after.
I don't think so, because yeah, these mesolites are amygdala forming, so you're not gonna be looking for vein material. I'm too lazy to go back and get my boots. Sorry. I'm too lazy to go back and get my knee pads. Oh, there's a little nodule that I just clearing out some ground so I won't hurt my knees. And then a little intact nodule of Michigan Thomsonite. You'll hear me alternating between the terms Michigan Thomsonite and mesolite. Either one's acceptable. Generally calling it Thomsonite is pretty incorrect. If you want to call it Michigan Thomsonite, I don't think anybody's going to hassle you. That's like Thomsonite with an asterisk on it. I'm a little nervous to go too much deeper under this tree. They've already dug out these roots about as far as one could safely and reasonably do so. I always tell people don't hit rocks with the sharp end of your rock hammer. This is pretty much the only example of when it's okay to do so, when you're trying to really get in there and pry the rocks out. So you should never ever hit a rock, bam, like that. All right, that's not the right way to use it. You're gonna create a hazard for yourself and others. But if you're trying to pry the rocks out, you can jam them and try to get some pieces out like so. Oh, we've got a lot of Thomsonite in here. Freshly exposed. Never before seen the light of day. Let's have a look at it. I'm not sure any of this is worth taking home. Got a little bit of green in there. It's probably chlorite. It's kind of massive though. There's no radiating crystal structure on that, so I'm not sure that can be called mesolite either. Let's keep looking at these. There we go. If I can get this to work right. I'm gonna do a point on that. It's awfully pretty. I'll take that. Got room in my pocket for that. Which, by the way, that's all I do out here. I bring a small bag or I just load my pockets, and that really helps me control how much I collect. I don't need to be carrying 70 or 80 pounds of this back. I just need a few nice pieces. Anything amazing in that? Little guys. Let's pry out some more. Anything interesting? How about you? Some of these are sharp. I kind of regret not wearing my gloves. More little ones in there. Interesting patterning in that, but not much actually in there. I really want to break that. I should get my crack hammer out. I'm not convinced there's going to be anything too amazing in there based on what I've already seen, though. There we go. Every once in a while, the light catches a discard piece that looks like it might be awfully pretty. Well, that's nice. I'm gonna leave it though. Funny story. When the late great Sean Carlson was talking to me about these Michigan Thomsonites, he told me that mineral testing had shown that they were mesolites. Now I misremembered that mesolites were a mineral class rather than a specific mineral. The zeolites, I thought they were mesolites. And so I asked him, oh, really? So what kinds of mesolites? And he looked a little bit confused by the questions. I'm like, yeah, what kind of mesolite is it mostly out there? And he's like, oh, there's some naturalite and other stuff too, but mostly just mesolite. I thought he was just being kind of obscure about it. And he passed away a couple of years ago. I was doing a little research into mesolites. It's a specific mineral. There's no multiple kinds of mesolites. It's just mesolite. I feel like a dope, but you know, that happens. There are some lovely thimbleberries over here though. Look at you, you're just too ripe for me not to pick. Let's get you off of there. Oh yeah, beautiful. Oh, but I don't want to just pop you into my mouth. There's a beetle in there. Dude, come on man. Shoo. All right, you win. I'll take, that's a little, all right, not quite as ripe looking, but still a good one. Ooh, that was tart. Ooh. Here's one's a little darker. And no hidden secret beetles. All right. Oh, wow, very tart also. Holy cow. Thimbleberries are marketed as a less tart version of a raspberry, but whew, not all. That's pretty. But is it purple? It is not. Not purple enough.
So I found the first piece, and then I was digging around. I pulled the casey and actually found the second piece of it.
Oh my goodness.
Crack.
That is a beauty. Let me see if I can get this thing to actually turn and focus on it.
Right.
Yeah, put it in the light there. That's good. Ooh, ooh. There we go. Oh, look at that. You found two halves. There's another piece or two if you want to complete it.
I looked.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you found two of those pieces. That is hard to do out here. It's a heck of a jigsaw. It's on this side, but turn it over. It's really pretty. See it for the next person. Those are real weathered out. Look how they've lost their color. That happens as they break down through exposure to rain and frost. It's all looking pretty weathered over here. I don't think I'm gonna find anything of any real interest here. Oh, hey. That's pretty. I don't know if that's worth keeping. Nice. There's a piece right next to it. A lot of mesolites in this piece. Got over here. Pretty good sized chunk in there. That guy just poking right out. Little isolated Michigan Thomsonite all by itself. Compare that to the one I found on the beach the other day. Well, thanks for joining me out here on Thomsonite Hill. I hope you enjoyed finding some of those Michigan Thomsonites with me and learning that Michigan Thomsonites are not true Thomsonites at all, but rather mesolites. And that mesolites aren't a class of mineral, but a specific mineral. Although there is some natural light mixed in with them. I had a lot of fun out here. I found some good pieces. Hope you enjoyed your trip with me too. I'll see you next time. Until then, happy hunting.